Previously on the Vocal Minority.
Are you part of the silent majority? Or are you part of the vocal minority?
Let's go. Attention, please.
If America can be saved, and I don't know if it's too late, but it'll be through a radio show like this new kind.
This shit here feels like a whole entire world collapse.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers.
It's the vocal minority.
The revolution will be live.
Welcome to another episode of the Vocal Minority Report. As always, you could have downloaded any other podcast in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. We've got a great show for you today. Our guest is an ageless mom, Hall of Famer, two-time Olympian, analyst, coach, executive, Samaritan, and a woman who has spent almost a lifetime making the irregular regular, and who knows more famous folks and has more stories than we all could imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, she's got an award named after her, for Pete's sake. Please welcome the truly great Nancy Lieberman, a.k.a. Lady Magic, to the show.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me in that nice long introduction.
Hey, no problem. I mean, you've got such a storied career in life. I could have kept going on and on because there's just so much to put in the intro, but really grateful to have you on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I think I like being a mom and a coach and a philanthropist as much as anything I've ever done in my life. So thank you.
I think it's easy to see you having done so much, like what's truly important to you. So yeah, no, in my limited exposure to you in your life. So no, that's good. So I guess first question is, how's it going for you this morning? I know you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate your time. I feel like there's a group of young ladies or young people missing out on something very impactful from you as you spend time talking to me this morning.
Well, anytime I get up, I'm blessed, and I'm just thankful for the opportunities that I have to influence people and, to do the right thing. So, every day for me starts pretty simple. I know when I walk out of my door, it's a complicated world, but I get a chance to put my thumbprint on how I want it to be on a daily basis and how I want to treat people.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you're conscious of your daily impact on the world. No, that's nice. Okay. You might be, and I don't mean this in a hyperbolic fashion, but you might be one of the most interesting people we've had the pleasure of speaking with. We've been lucky enough to talk to a few people, but with me growing up in Dallas, being a huge basketball fan, I feel like I've always been aware of you. I really became captivated, I think, by you when I first heard you with our friends over at Bad Radio on the Ticket. I was like, I have to talk to her one day. Anyway, I've been looking forward to this, I guess is the point of that. But
well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's very sweet.
Well, I guess we'll start at the beginning somewhat the beginning. So I don't know if you accept this title or not, but I've seen you called one of the finest Jewish athletes to come out of Far Rockaway. I think you're actually a born again Christian, but hopefully you take that as a term of respect and endearment. But you've accomplished so much, so many milestones coming from, Far Rockaway, from Queens. So I just want to talk about kind of getting started. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I take that back. I really wanted to ask you about your camps, charities, and installation of the Dream Court. So, because I know you're really busy doing those things. So if you want to tell us about your charities and the Dream Courts and the stuff you're doing in the community.
Well, that's the most important thing that I do right now. And I was a poor kid from a one-parent family growing up in Queens. There were days that we didn't have food, we didn't have electric, we didn't have heat. And, in my childhood, we were one grandparent away from food stamps. So, when people say to me, well, you don't understand, you're white, you don't understand. And I'm like, don't profile me.
Right.
And just because we look different doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of commonalities. And it's just important for me to be able to do things. And I promised myself a long time ago, if the good Lord blessed me to be able to do something special or to have a special life, that I would give back. And from the day that I showed up in Dallas in 1980, and I asked somebody, I said, I want to go to some of the rec centers in South Dallas. And they're like, oh, no. You don't want to do that. I go, no, I do want to do that. That might not be what you want to do, but that's what I want to do.
Right.
Because I'm not afraid. And I started going to Redbird Rec Center. I've been doing free clinics in Dallas I've done thousands of free clinics since 1980. And, I'd walk in there and people would look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I know I'm white. Thank you so much for pointing that out to me. I appreciate it. I just got back from the Olympics and I want to, we just won the championship in college and I want to talk to the kids. I want to teach them basketball. I want to show them what they can be. And the beauty in this world, respect is an amazing thing. And when you're not afraid, when you respect people, it defies labels.
Right.
And, I love when I got here to Dallas and moved into Oak Cliff. I loved it. You didn't have to say, well, you need to go to North Dallas. No, I don't need to go to North Dallas. I can go to wherever I want to go and be around whoever I want to be around. And that's how my relationships in our community started.
Okay.
And we were doing free clinics for kids, and it morphed into my basketball camps. We've given over 20,000 scholarships to kids that couldn't afford to go to camp because somebody gave me a scholarship to go to camp when I couldn't afford it.
Okay.
And that's what Lieberman Charities is. We didn't make this stuff up. Without a college scholarship, I would not have been able to go to school. And I got a scholarship without people paying my way to the Olympic trials with a little can going door to door in 1974. I'm not doing this interview with you.
Right. Okay.
My dream, my safety net was being on a court. That's why we do Dream Court. We want to give these to different communities for kids who need them, who want to go on a court, express themselves. It's an amazing thing, sports. It's healthy. It builds your confidence, your self-esteem, your decision-making. It keeps you off the streets. It allows you to make friends, learn to win and lose, problem solve, all the things that we're going to have to do instead of making excuses for why we don't do things. It will build your confidence so you can believe what you can do, not what you can't do.
Right.
That's who I am today. I don't ever want to be remembered as a Hall of Famer or a two-time Olympian or national champion or player of the year. That's who I was. That's what I did. The person that God made me today is to help other people. And that, I love being a mom and I love helping people. And I'm blessed to coach in the NBA and do some really neat things. But I live in this community and I'm going to help this community.
That's a beautiful thing. Your message to young people and kids in the camp, that's why I wanted to have my daughter go to your camp. I was like, I want her to hear this in person. I was moved just by listening to you for, a 15-minute segment on Bad Radio, a few years ago. So I can feel the passion and the want. And I know you're very busy doing the dream courts. So you go to urban communities all around the country and install these courts so the young people have a place to play. That's what the Dream Court is, right? That specific piece of what you do? It
is because it has no boundaries. I mean, if a kid wants to shoot at 6 in the morning, go shoot at 6 in the morning. If a boy or girl wants to play at 8 o'clock at night, go play. Once we give it to you, it's not our court. It's yours.
Okay.
It's yours. And we're excited. We're going to partner with Chief Brown, and we're going to put 12 dream courts in the southern sector, South Dallas, East Dallas.
Right.
We're working on a plan and a partnership and an initiative that I just think everybody is going to love. And I pray that everybody loves, that this is coming from our hearts. And we're just going to expand what we're doing, but we're going to come out there and be a part of your lives. Because I want these kids to be a part of my life. I want to know what the struggles are. I want to know how we can help. I want to know, I want to be inspired, by people I don't know either. So we're working hard together to do something right.
You're building it to let it stand, to exist for the community. You're really vested in. I really appreciate. I'm sure our audience appreciates that engagement and sincerity, I guess, for lack of a better term. So.
Well, you have to understand, it's not entitlement. Nobody's entitled to nothing.
Right.
I'm not entitled to nothing. I have to earn the right to do certain things. So it's a partnership here. Like if I come across, and I come into South Dallas and I see kids, man, I want to be hugged and high-fived and loved and cared for and respected. because that's what I'm giving back. I mean, I spent my life growing up playing ball in Brooklyn and Queens and Harlem. I mean, I could walk into Harlem right now, rough times, and people will be like, hey, Nancy, or hey, Lady Magic, because we poured kindness into each other. We weren't profiling each other. We weren't pointing fingers at each other. Some of us had a little, some of us had a lot, some of us had nothing. But, it's like lift when you rise.
Right.
Lift when you rise. Help other people when good things happen to you. And I don't want to come into South Dallas and people go, oh, look, what's this white lady doing in town? No. I know I'm different. I'm a 58-year white woman. But you can't stop me from caring.
Right.
I mean, if I come into a place and I'll do it with a wink and a smile, don't profile me. Because you don't know what's in my heart. I've had, my kid is 22 years old and his best friends are African Americans. Because that's how he grew up. We protect each other. And that's life as I know it, unless somebody wants to, show me a clinical reason why that shouldn't be. I mean, that's just why we do what we do. We've sent 21 high school seniors to college the last 4 years.
Oh, wow.
We built 31 dream courts already. We just finished doing the Derek Jeter court in Kalamazoo. And we just finished doing the Martina Navratilova court last Wednesday in Miami. Okay. And you know what? We were giving hugs and getting hugs from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. We can do this. We can do this together. I can't solve every problem the world has. I can't. But we can do our part to the best of my ability. And that's what we're doing here. That's why I tell you, I thought being the greatest basketball player in the world was the end-all, be-all for me. And as I've gotten older and more perspective, that's not what I was supposed to do. That was kind of my platform. My platform is to care and to love and to help.
I really love hearing you say that, because obviously I want to spend time talking about you and your career and kind of what made you into this person now. But to hear you just kind of give that perspective and to go back. And so let's talk about your beginnings, kind of what helped shape you into you. I mean, you talk about coming from a single parent home. And I love the way you said that, being a grandparent away from food stamps. So, I mean, that's it.
Absolutely.
I think folks can, not that I know that personally. However, I can certainly understand it. And I think that imagery would resonate with folks. So let's talk about, I guess, when did you start playing? Like, when was basketball on your mind? Like, I believe you grew up wanting to play in the backcourt alongside one of the best dressed men in the game now, right? Walt Clyde Frazier. Were you just a huge Knicks fan growing up? Like, what was your exposure to basketball initially? And when did you figure out that your basketball skill would take you, maybe not as far as it took you, obviously. What was your childhood like around ball?
Well, my first sport was football.
Okay.
I played Pee-wee football, then oh my gosh, my stories are so crazy, but they're real. We used to shop in a thrift shop, okay? All my clothes were secondhand clothes growing up. And there was a New York Jets football helmet. It was a lamp. And, it had the little hole right down the middle of the helmet.
Right.
And then it had a bulb and whatnot and the wires. Well, somebody said, do you want to play on a football team? And I was like 7, 8. And I said, yeah. They said, well, do you have a helmet? And I said, yeah, I do have a helmet. So I unscrewed the top of the lamp and the bottom of the lamp, and I took the wires out and the pole, and I put, you're making me laugh, I put towels in the helmet and got duct tape. And that duct tape was my chin strap.
Oh, wow.
And I was returning a kick. We were playing Sandlot football, and I was returning a kick one day, and a guy just plowed me in my stomach. And I lost my breath, and my head went back, and my helmet split in half, and it was hanging, and the towels fell out, but the helmet was stuck to my chin by the tape. It was hanging on both sides of my. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. And then I ended up playing baseball, and I was going to play PAL baseball. And right before, I was the starting shortstop, and the day of the first game, our coach came to me and he said, Nancy, you can't play. They won't insure you because you're a girl. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I was 9 years old.
Right.
I'm like, Mitty, I'm the best shortstop you have. Why won't they let me play? He goes, I don't know. They just won't. And I'm really sorry. I feel horrible. So I was angry and I went over to the YMCA in my neighborhood. And after that, I love basketball anyway, but I decided the first question I asked is, can I play, I'm a girl, can I play on the court with guys? And the director said, yeah, why not? I said, okay. And that's what happened to me. I started playing with the guys. I fell in love with Walt Frazier and Willis Reed and Dr. J.
Right.
I wanted to be cool like Clyde Frazier. I wore the Pumas. It was really great. And it just gave me a chance to do things and express myself. And I started playing in the schoolyards. And then somebody said to me once, they said, the best players are from Harlem. And I'm like, Harlem up in Harlem? I said, yeah. So I took $2 from my mom's wallet. I didn't even tell her. And I said, hey, I'm going to the park. So she thought the park across the street.
Of course.
And I took the A train from Far Rockaway, changed in Manhattan, and then went to 155th and Malcolm X Boulevard. And I got off the train and I walked into, Rucker Park. I had T-shirts in my jacket, so I looked bigger on the train. And I would stare at people like, "What you looking at?"
Right.
I was the action and you're the reaction.
Of course.
And I walk into the park and these brothers are looking at me like, "Little girl, are you lost?" I said, "No, are you?" They started looking at me and they said, "Do you know where you are?" I said, "Yeah, Rucker Park. You guys are supposed to be good, are you?" And they're kind of looking at me. And I said, "Is your name Rucker?" And the guy goes, "No." I said, "Good. It ain't your park." And these guys embraced me, and they called me Fire because I was like a pistol.
Okay.
Flaming red hair. And they're like, "Where do you live?" I said, "I live in Far Rockaway, and my mom doesn't know I'm here. And I heard you guys were really good, and I want to be really good." Okay, they became closer to me than my brother.
Wow.
They would take the train home with me to Far Rockaway, walk me to my house, come in, and of course, the neighbors and my mom would be like, "Young lady, in the other room, who are these three boys?" And I'm like, "Ma, these are my friends, and that's Ronald and Donald and Gary, and Mom, they're hungry. Can you make them spaghetti?" She's like, "Who are they?" And I'm like, "They're my friends. We won 3 games in a row. They're my friends." And I was a little naive, but I was teaching my mother not to, be racist and not to profile and judge people. They became part of my family. My mother couldn't wait to meet these guys. And they would wait for me at the train because there was no cell phone or texting. And I would say, "Okay, Thursday I'm going to take the 5:10 train." And they'd wait for me. And I'd go into the park and we'd play for 2 or 3 hours. And they'd take the train back to Rockaway with me. And that's how my life is. That's why I have such a deep appreciation for people because of how I was treated.
Right.
And it's crazy. And you heard the story about Muhammad. Muhammad Ali changed my life.
Right.
And,
yeah. I wanted to get into the Muhammad Ali story. Since you were let's talk about your relationship with Muhammad Ali. When you were a kid, right? When you were 10. That's when he kind of changed your life in a transformative kind of way. And then you obviously, because of being who you are and being so dynamic, you had the pleasure to meet him and have a real relationship with him over the years, right?
Yeah, I was 10 years old. I was tired of people telling me I was stupid and dumb and I'd never make anything of myself. Why are you in the streets playing ball? Why are you hanging out with black people? I got tired of hearing that. And why can't you be like your brother? Your brother's like an A student. And I was like, playing basketball makes me feel good. When the guys say, "We'll pick the girl," it makes me feel good about myself.
Right.
And everybody's so negative to me, and the kids in the street, they're so positive to me. And I shared this with my mother. And then I'm walking in the kitchen one day, and this guy's on TV, and he's sitting there saying, I'm the greatest of all time. I whipped Joe Frazier like I beat George Foreman, like I beat Sonny Liston back in 1964. I'm the greatest of all time. I'm too pretty not to be the champion of the world. And I walk in the kitchen and I go up to my mother and I'm like, I'm going to be the greatest of all time. And she's like, why are you talking like that? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to whoop you. And she's like, Nancy Lieberman, what is wrong with you? I said, you better get used to it. And I put my hands on my head. I said, I'm going to make history. I'm going to be the greatest basketball player ever. And you're going to have to know that. And I walked out of the kitchen and I went into my room. I was like, oh, did I just say that? And so Muhammad was he was my eyes, he was my vision. And then a couple years later, I make the USA team as a high school kid. I'm still the youngest Olympic athlete, basketball player ever, male or female.
Right.
When I was in high school. And
you were 17, right?
17 when I made the team.
Okay.
We won the silver. I was 16 the year before on the Pan Am team when we won the gold medal. And then I go to Old Dominion. We ended up winning our first national championship in 79. And I'm asked, I was player of the year in college basketball, and I'm asked to do a fundraiser in New York for the Olympic Committee. So I go to New York kind of feeling good about myself, and it's at the New York Stock Exchange. And my mom and my best friend are with me from high school, and I asked the lady from the Olympic Committee, I go, so who's the other athlete here tonight? And she goes, oh, Muhammad Ali. And I went, what? And they put us in a room together, and I couldn't breathe. I was on the other side of the room because that's my man.
Right.
That's my hero. And my mother walks up to him and says, Mr. Muhammad, my name is Rini Lieberman from Far Rockaway. And my daughter is the greatest basketball player of all time. And he looks at her and he goes, lady, there's only one greatest of all time, and it's me. She goes, Mr. Muhammad, I know that you're good. But my daughter Nancy, and it's unbelievable. So he calls me over and he says, your mother says you're the greatest, or you're good. And I can't even look him in the eye, and I'm really shy, and I'm like, well, Mr. Muhammad, I don't know. And I go, I'm the greatest of all time. And he hugs me and he goes, there's two of us? I go, yeah. And then, I couldn't stop. And we won the Olympics, and we did this, and I was the champion. And, he was so cool. We went back to the hotel with him. He was sharing his philosophy of life, about people being prejudiced. He gave me an education that night at the Plaza Hotel in New York. And the cool thing about him is, he's like, here's my number, and give me yours. If you need me, I'm here. I'd be in college, he'd call me, people couldn't believe it. They're like, Muhammad Ali's on the phone. I'm like, what? And I go to the phone, I'm like, hey, Tam. He was always checking in on me. And we just kept this relationship for years. And, he's lived the last 10 years in Phoenix with his wife, Lonnie. I bet you every 2 or 3 months, I'd get on a plane. And I'd call Lonnie and I'd say, what are you guys doing? She goes, baby, are you in town? I go, yeah. She says, come over. He wants to see you.
Okay.
And I'd go to the house and I'd sit with him. And I'd hold his hand and just, tell him how much I love him. And, he'd love to eat sherbet, and I would feed him, his hand would shake, and I'd feed him sherbet. And if he drooled, I would just wipe his face, and I would just show him pictures of my family, like my son. And I'd mess around. I go, hey, Muhammad, this is my son. He's like, he's good looking. I go, like his mother or his father? He'd start laughing, and I would say, hey, I know you're mad. I've come out of retirement more than you now. Coming out of retirement at 39 and 50.
Right.
And Lonnie would be like, he's been waiting all day to see you, and that's what you got? And we would just sit there together. And I'm so grateful. And so I got the job last year being being assistant coach in Sacramento.
Right.
And the second person I called was the Ali's. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just got hired. And they had been telling me for years I was going to coach in the NBA. So Lonnie says, we're coming to see you when you play the Suns. And I was like, no, you're not. Come on. Mom, I get it. He's got Parkinson's. And she goes, Nancy, he wants to see you. Okay, we played the Suns last November in Phoenix, and that morning, Lonnie Ali calls me, and she says, hey, Muhammad and I are coming to the game tonight. And I'm like, really?
Right.
He makes me have those really moments in my life.
Right.
And I turn around. They have the suite right behind our bench. And I turn around and I look at him and he blows me a kiss and he waves at me. And my teammates are like, Rondo and DeMarcus, they're like, man, the champ's here. What's the champ doing here? And somebody goes, oh, that's Coach's friend. it was great street cred.
Right. No, I'm sure. Yeah, the champ comes to see you. Right.
He was great. After the game, we took pictures, and he died, 7 months later?
Right. But at least he got to see you fulfill. I mean, I say at least, obviously, the man did amazing things in his life as of you, but he got to see you fulfill something that he said and you said, for 20, 25, 30 years. Pretty amazing. So his death, how did that affect you? Since we're just talking about it, I'm sure it had a profound effect on you, but his death and his legacy, have you had time to kind of look back and kind of put that in perspective, his legacy and the legacy he's left?
Yeah, I have actually, because every day Muhammad lived with purpose, with love and with kindness. People said he was racist. People said he hated these people. There's not a stick of hate in Muhammad Ali. It's all about love and kindness and doing for people. It's going to be really hard to live up to the standards that Muhammad Ali had set. But I'm going to try every day to be a little bit better, to serve a little bit harder, to give a little bit more of myself to people, and just lead with love and kindness and understanding. Because, I know what it's like not to have food, and I can't take it out on everybody. I'm sure there are days that I did. I was angry. I lived angry because my father left me. Stuff like that really affected me. And, even through everything that I have today, and I've been blessed beyond my means, I sit there and think, man, you got to look at not what you have, but what other people are going through. And have some empathy, have some understanding. Don't sit there and go, well, they're just angry. Well, I'd be angry too. I had an angry childhood.
Right.
I had nobody wanted to guard me in practice because I was angry and I was going to knock the crap out of anybody that looked at me wrong. But I had to grow up and I had to channel my anger. And it wasn't easy. I mean, change is hard, man. It's really hard to change. And I had to be the one to do some of the changing. So I get it. That's why, I don't judge people. I'm like, man, what's going on in your work? Tell me.
Right.
Are you okay? I mean, we have to understand. Money's not the most important thing, but I can tell you that if my refrigerator breaks, I'm not sweating it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you get blessed in certain ways, and you forget that other people are stinking struggling, and that's what bothers me sometimes about people. It's like just because you have and somebody complains, they're complaining. So do we all have to get better? Yeah, of course we have to get better.
Right.
And handle things a little bit better, no matter what side you're sitting on.
Right.
And that's where my life, like I said, has evolved.
Okay.
I'm proud to be in the NBA, but, when the day comes and I'm not in the NBA, I still have to live with a purpose.
Right.
And I still have to help. And I'm commanded to help people, and I want to help people. What's the saying? Show a man how to fish, and he'll have give a man a fish.
Right. Yeah. But
and he'll have a meal.
But teach him.
Show a man how to fish, and he'll have food for life.
Right.
So, I'm tough on people too. I'm like, man, don't act entitled. It's not, I don't have to do this for you. I want to do this. And you also have to have a role in changing your life too. Don't get complacent. Don't get angry. Don't just sit there and whatever. You have to change too, because you got to be better.
Right.
I come across some people who are like, man, they owe me. They owe me. Nobody owes nothing to nobody. We can do this together, but we need help. Nobody who's ever been great has done it by themselves. It's collectively, we must lift people around us. And we can do it. And it doesn't matter if you're white or black or Asian or Latino. We have to do this together. This is the life we have.
Right.
We can't keep shooting and beating the hell out of each other. I mean, angry at each other.
You mentioned that the one saying there, and I think of to whom much is given, much is required, right? And obviously there's levels to that. Were you conscious, or do you live your life, or did you live your life conscious of the barriers that existed for a highly driven, gifted athlete and person like yourself? Like, were you, I guess of course you were aware because you couldn't play baseball back in the day. So just curious, as being female, and you know what I'm getting at.
You're asking me,
yeah.
and the answer is no. I didn't grow up to change the world.
Right.
I didn't grow up to be a Hall of Famer or an Olympian. I grew up to play because it made me feel good about myself.
Okay.
That's why I played sports. It was just very impactful in my life. I needed it. I needed sports more than sports needed me. The things that came after were just a byproduct of just loving the game and the game loving me back. So, for me, it was very important to honor the game the right way.
Okay.
And the right way, what I mean about that is just to make sure that, I do the right thing. If practice is at a certain time, I don't show up at 5 o'clock. If you show up at 5, you're late. I would show up early. I'd be the first person to the gym. I wanted to be a good role model, to my teammates. The things that I could take care of and be responsible for, that was something that meant everything to me. So nobody can say that I'm late or I'm lazy.
Okay.
I might not have hit the shot, or I might not have had the home run or run the ball in, but you're not going to be able to say that I'm lazy or I didn't show up. That'll be for somebody else. I wasn't drinking and smoking and doing drugs. I wasn't in a gang. That's just me. Everybody has their own path. The other thing is, like I said, I had to learn how to be a good teammate. Part of being a good teammate is encouraging and not just, killing people when they're not as good as you. And in many cases, players weren't as good as me.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I can't be a good teammate and encourage people or help them. I want to also go back to another subject that, I know that a lot of people, have been held back. And, there's a lot going on in our society. I grew up Jewish. I had situations where, and this is hard, for me to say, but, I had great-grandparents that were burned alive in ovens in the Holocaust.
Right.
Who died in gas chambers. I'm not mad at German people.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
My grandmother and my grandparents are mad. They were probably, my great-grandparents and grandparents were probably angry at German people because of the atrocities that, they had done to them. But I had to see it in a different light. I'm embarrassed about slavery, actually. I'm embarrassed about some of the things that have happened because I think it's flat out unacceptable. But I think we have come a long way. We're not there yet. We're not close to being there yet, but I think we have come a long way as a society, and we have to grow together. And I just so badly don't want our country to be divided by black and white.
Right.
Because I know the good, and we have to get better. We have to get better. But fighting each other and pointing fingers at each other, I know white people right now who feel like they're so walking on eggshells. They don't know whether to call black people African American, people of color. Should I say that they're black? Can I say, hey, bro? I'm like, man, stop it. Just be yourself.
Right.
Be authentic, and just be a good person. And if I want to say to a friend of mine, hey, bro, or hey, dog, come here, I want to talk to you for a minute. It's not derogatory. And I just think we have to work together. And I'm sure this interview was supposed to be about something else, but all this stuff going on, the killings, the cops are not bad people. There's some bad eggs. I'm sure they're walking up to a car scared as hell also about what could happen to them. We have to, I don't know what it's like to be pulled over and profiled because I'm driving a nice car. I don't know what that feels like. And I'm the blackest white woman you know.
No doubt.
But I don't know what that feels like.
Right, of course.
And I think it has to suck.
Yeah, right, because, I mean...
We gotta find a way to work together. We have to. All we have is all we have.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I mean, you know, if I'm driving through Frisco and you're driving through Frisco, our experiences are relatively the same and should be the same. And finding that commonality is important. So you mentioned where this conversation had planned to go. I mean, that's what we do on this show. And we're just trying to highlight, you know, I just want your perspective. So it's wonderful hearing it because you are a white woman who does have some privilege, being white. But, you know, but you're also a woman. You also come from humble beginnings, and you're also very introspective and conscious of the world, and to know that privilege, but also know that money, success, all those things are fleeting, and it's or can be. And
it's not going with us.
Right.
We have,
right.
And my time's up. My house, my cars, my this, my that. It ain't coming with me.
No, right. Yeah, no,
it's not.
Yes.
So, you know, our legacy is who we are, what we do for people, how we treat people. That's the legacy of who we are, not what I drove.
Right.
And that's, you know, I mean, I know it's nice. Look, I've had and I haven't had. And honestly, I like having more than not. But I will tell you this. I will be more than happy to get a job flipping burgers somewhere if it means having to feed my family.
Right.
I will do that. I'd rather not. I'd rather do what I'm doing, but I will do that. Because if that's my role, then I will do. So I get it. But we also have to get up, find a little energy, and also be productive. You know what I'm saying? Don't be a victim, be a victor.
Right.
And that's important in life.
Like I love where we went there. If I can take it back to the basketball arena a little bit more, if you're cool with that too, because I want to ask you kind of about your trajectory from obviously post college to the USBL, playing under Henry Bibby, famed USC coach, and Mike Bibby's dad, right? And I guess he's the brother of former Ranger great Jim Bibby too. So I wonder what it was like being with him 30 plus years ago. And we talk about you making history. You know, you made history so many times and coming out of retirement. But I'm just curious how that decision getting in the USBL, because you were still getting that the G money from the Dallas Diamonds at that time, right? Too.
Well, Dallas Diamonds, you know, the Diamonds folded the year after I came here. So, you know, it was disappointing because I was so excited to be a professional athlete.
Right.
And, you know, then to have the league, you know, here and then gone, it was tough, you know, emotionally. But, you know, the league came back. There was another league that came back shortly thereafter for a year. So I played in 81 and 84 for the Dallas Diamonds. And then after that, the league went away until I ended up playing in the USBL in 1986 and 87.
Okay.
And so, you know, just playing, you know, it's kind of neat playing in a men's professional league. But, you know, on my best days, I was average.
Right.
Guys are really good. I mean, I'd make a great move to the basket, and then, you know, a 7-footer would come from nowhere.
Right.
So, you know, there's just challenges. Challenges are everywhere. I certainly didn't want to just solely play in the USBL. I just wanted to play because I needed a place to play.
Okay. So it was less to make a statement and more just because, hey, I'm a basketball player and I need a place to play, you know, like I'm
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know,
no statement there. It was just, I want to play. This is my only option. If this is it, I'm willing to do it. And that was the best part of the whole deal, is that they gave me a chance. And I was very grateful for that chance and that opportunity.
Right. So what about the WNBA? So what is that, like 96, 97? So about 10 years later when that rolls around. And I'm sure you being Lady Magic, and so literally, you know, Mrs. Basketball, for lack of a better term. I'm sure you were involved in some of those early conversations. You probably knew that what was coming, I would assume anyway. So what about the decision to play in the WNBA, you know, at the age of 39? Was that easy for you as well? Was that just because, hey, I can still play and the opportunity exists, or what kind of went into that thought process?
Well, I knew one of the really neat things in my life is that when David Stern got the job as commissioner of the NBA in the early 80s, he called me to New York, and I flew up there, and we were talking about everything sports, and then he says, he closes his door, and he goes, they'll probably fire me if I say this. He goes, before I'm done here in the NBA, he goes, there will be a WNBA.
Oh, wow.
Like, this is like 81 or 82. And I said, well, what do you mean there'll be a WNBA? And he says, this is what I want to do. I want to create a WNBA. And he goes, my only hope is that you'll still be around to be able to play.
Oh, wow.
And it was really amazing that he said that. So I knew they were trying to start a women's pro league, and I just badly wanted to be a part of it, even though I was 39. So I'm at the Olympics in '96 doing the TV, and I'm sitting with Magic Johnson in Atlanta, and he says to me, he goes, girl, are you playing in the WNBA? And I said, well, I want to, I hope to. And Magic says, Nancy Lieberman, I have never heard you say I'm not sure. He goes, are you going to play in the league next year? And I said, yes. He says, well, then I suggest you go home and start training. And I went home, and my son was, 2.5 years old. And I said, TJ, come here. I said, what does your mother do for a living? And he goes, you're my mom. He goes, no, I'm your mom, but that's not what I do for a living. He goes, I don't know. I said, you go in the other room, and you get your father, and you tell him your mother is coming out of retirement. He runs in the other room, and Tim's 6'8", and he looks up, he goes, Dad, we're in trouble. Mommy's coming out of retirement. And they go in the kitchen, and he goes, Nancy, are you kidding? You were just inducted in the Hall of Fame. What happens if you're not as good as you are? And I'm like, Tim, I need the glass to be half full, not half empty.
Right.
I need your support.
Right. So support me, Tim. Be on my side. Right.
And it was amazing.
Okay.
I had so much fun playing for the Phoenix Mercury. And we played one night. It was opening night. It was 17,000 people at America West. Gladys Knight is singing the national anthem.
Oh, wow.
And Gladys comes over to me. She goes, girl, this is inspiring. She goes, I know what it's like to be old. I said, don't make me think I'm old. And we're running down the court, and there's my son in the stands. He's got a headband like I had. He had a Mercury jersey, number 10, with Lieberman Klein on the back. He had a wristband, and I had hurt my finger in practice the day before. So I had my finger taped up, and he had his same finger taped up.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm running down the court, and out of 17,000 people, I hear this, Timsy, pass the ball to my mommy. And Michelle Timms, my teammate, we just start laughing on the court, and she passes the ball ahead to me, and I hit a three, and I go, pass the ball to the kid's mother. That's funny. And we just had a blast. What a great year.
That's wonderful. I mean, especially, and you were, and so like the training, and you were good to go. Was it a big deal to play that many games and get back in the swing of things? Was your body and everything?
Oh, it was tough. It was hard because these are some of the best young athletes in the world. They were 22, 23,
right.
4 years old. I was 39.
Okay. I got you.
I don't advocate this.
Okay.
We've become very, very good friends over the years. But she was a young kid. She was coming out of college, kind of cocky, thinking, this was her birthright. And every day in practice, she'd be like, oh, look at Grandma wearing Daisy Dukes. She was disrespecting me.
You know what?
She just didn't know.
I talked over who you're referring to. Who you're referring to? I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want to say her name.
Okay, my bad. Okay, cool. All right. Friend of mine. Gotcha. Okay.
Every day she'd come in and have just another, kind of smart ass comment. And we were in practice one day, and she was, we were running a drill, and I tried to make a cut, and she kind of jammed me. I said, next time you do that, she had done it 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Like, you got to remember, I'm a street kid.
Right.
Next time she did it, I told her, I said, you do that again one more time, I'm going to punch you in the face. And she thought I was kidding. And she jammed me, and I punched her in the face, and she fell down.
Oh, wow.
Cheryl Miller's standing there. She goes, okay, let's go down to the other side of the court and run the drill. and the girl's just laying down on the court. And we go in the locker room, my teammates are like, we just thought you were kidding. I go, oh, no. The first couple warnings were just being honest, and I was not making an idle threat.
Right.
And so I literally hit her in the face, and she was like stunned. And about 6-7 weeks later, we're on a bus in New York playing in the Garden. And I was sitting on the back of the bus, and she came up, and she goes, can I talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, how's your face? and she's like, I deserve that. I said, yeah, I know. And she goes, look, I'm really sorry. I was young. I was stupid. I was just kind of, feeling my oats. And I was like, it's okay. I said, we're in this thing together, but don't ever disrespect the game or the people in the game.
Right.
And, it was I hated to hit her, but, it is what it is, but it was a lesson well learned. You know what I mean? And she coaches in the WNBA now, and she's 46 or 7 or 8. I don't know how old she is. And she just laughed. She goes, oh, these kids are just wearing me out. I was like, okay.
Right. So,
I had a great experience, and then coaching in the league was fabulous.
Now I have to go look at old Phoenix Mercury rosters to figure out and look at current coaches to figure out who it is that you hit. So so that'll be my research project once we're done. But okay, so then you went on to coaching in the WNBA, and we talked about being an assistant with the Kings. So which, again, another first for you. I mean, your life is full of firsts, and I guess at this point they probably don't even affect you because you're just doing, I guess, like you said, you're just doing you. So the impact of being the first or coming out of retirement, that, as we've mentioned, that probably that's not what it's about, right? There's an opportunity in front of you, and it makes sense that you would coach in the NBA because you're qualified. It makes sense that you would coach the Legends, the D-League team here in Dallas, because you're qualified to do so. Is that how you look at it, your post-playing career?
I don't look at anything other than that I'm grateful.
Okay.
None of those things happen. Donnie Nelson is a hero to me.
Right.
Because Donnie Nelson changed the course of women's athletics, and I'm sure he never set out to do that. When he met with me and we talked, we bumped into each other one day in 2010. Like 7 a.m, I was mailing a mail in a blue box that happened to be in front of a Starbucks. He was coming out of the Starbucks, and we were just, we have been friends, and I just said, hey, hi, how are you? And he just gave me that weird look. He was like staring at me, and he goes, sis, I have your number, don't I? And I go, yeah. And he went home, and he just kind of checked some of the boxes that were important to him. And as he said later, I realized maybe the best man for the job, not a man at all. Maybe it's you.
Okay.
And, so when he didn't go in with a toe, man, I wonder how this thing's going to work. Can you handle it? What will the perception be? He went in with 2 feet. And I remember, I still have the text from him. He texted me the night before my press conference with the team, and it said, Nancy, this is what Martin Luther King marched and died for.
Right.
He goes, I can't wait until tomorrow. And he just sees things on a different level. So I believe that me and Becky are not in the NBA if it's not for Donnie, having that leap of faith. And, we not only did we hire a chick, well, we went to the playoffs.
Right.
We haven't been in the playoffs since.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's 6 years later, and, coaches, Eddie or Dell, like, man, how did you guys make the playoffs? And, we had probably the least of the talent that we've had in Legends history on my team, although we had some really, special players, but it was just different. It's different now.
Right.
But Donnie gets the credit for that.
Okay.
I'm just doing my job. If Donnie doesn't make the decision, then I'm not doing that.
Right. Obviously I know of the Mavericks' relationship with the Legends, but I didn't know, or I did not remember if I knew that Donnie was, or Little Whistle was, I know international ball, he's amazing, but I didn't know that he was actually, put you in that position or handpicked you. So that's interesting. I'm glad you told that story. So talking about the D-League and coaching, but I just want to get into the kind of philosophy when it comes to coaching, D-League with the Kings now. I've seen you mention that you're going to make them better men, or, part of your goal, I guess, more specific to the D-League, was making them better men. And I'm just curious if you can speak more to what you meant by that and what you mean by that. But especially being, a white woman and dealing with essentially all these brothers who play basketball, because I mean, obviously the NBA, that's what it's full of, generally speaking. So can you just talk about that, making them better men, and what that mindset is, how deliberate you are in that?
Well, when Donnie hired me, and I knew that I was coaching predominantly African-American guys, and I feel very comfortable, as I've alluded to, in this world.
Right.
One of the first things I did, and I got hired a year before I started coaching, I called Spike Lee and I called Mike Tomlin. Spike I knew, Tomlin I did not know. And my question, first of all, when I called the Steelers, I was hoping that somebody would answer the phone that was over 40. I was like, please be over 40, so they would know who I am. And, 20-year-old, they're like, who the heck are you? And so this guy, Dave Lockyer, was their media relations director, and he says, oh my God, Nancy Lieberman, how can we help you? I said, well, first, I'm glad you're over 40. He started laughing. And I said, I could really use to talk to Mike Tomlin, to coach. I said, is there any chance you might get him to give me a holler? And he goes, absolutely. So Mike calls me one day, and this is exactly how the conversation starts. Hey, Nancy, Mike Tomlin. And I said, hi. I said, white, 52, female, getting ready to coach predominantly black men. And he went, oh my God. And I said, he goes, how can I help you? I said, I think I know a lot about young black guys, but I could use your help. I need to know what I'm dealing with. I need to know family. I know baby mamas, drugs.
Right.
What makes people feel great about themselves? He goes, come to Pittsburgh. They brought me up to Pittsburgh for a day. And he and I I said, why did you bring me up here? He goes, I've never had anybody call me to ask me how to make young black men better. I said, isn't that my job as a coach? To figure out the things that I don't know. It's a strength to know what you don't know.
Of course.
That's a strength.
Of course.
And so I said, I just want to make sure that I'm communicating appropriately, that I know what I'm dealing with, and I'm not just guessing here. And we literally went through, okay, this is what white people smoke. This is what black people smoke. This is why they do. You know what I'm saying?
He'll tell you about the Newports versus Marlboro. Right.
All of that. So I said, I have to make my guys, I'm going to make them better basketball players, but my job is to make them better husbands, better boyfriends, better teammates, better decision makers. I want to make them better. I want to do life with my guys. I want one of us to be at each other's funeral. That we cared so deeply about each other. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to sit here behind because you can't get it right on the court.
Right. You're
going to have to come with the goods too, but every single day I can care about you. Okay. And I will. But you got to care also. So, that's part of it.
Okay.
And, I got great information, from Spike. I got great information from, Mike, who, was just fantastic. We talked about, themes and cultures and just everything you would need to know. He was willing to share.
Right. Okay.
And it just helped me. I have to get better too. If I'm asking my players to be better, then I have to be better as well. So I don't see it any other way.
And I think you're exactly right. We hear about coaches that they go visit other people. Everyone goes to Nick Saban. There's a lot of communal, but the fact that you would reach out to, especially Mike Tomlin at that time, when he's newer on the job, taking over, in his position. So that's, and being young too, being so young, especially back then. Well, he's still very young, but I wanted to ask you about your relationship with him specifically. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So,
you said something which people forget. Mike was the first black, African-American coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Super Bowl champions.
Right.
He was one of the youngest coaches in the league. He had tremendous pressure on him as well. And I would watch how he handled himself in press conferences, how thought out he was. And, his players cared about him. And I thought he was a great role model and could offer me really important advice. And he did.
And that goes to show, just your thoughtfulness, and it's not just a job gig or, basketball, like you said, touching and connecting with people and being very intentional. I feel like, you're very intentional when you do things, and that's extremely important. I'm glad to hear that. And then, the fact that it must be nice to be able to pick up the telephone and get Spike Lee or call the Steelers to get Mike Tomlin or Muhammad Ali, or, and I know everyone in your life. So I wanted to ask you too about your friendship with Warren Buffett. See if you can give me a discount at Nebraska Furniture Mart,
I can't get a discount at Nebraska Furniture Mart, but, I can't sit here and tell you how I know all these people. If you can make people laugh and you can make people smile and they know that you're sincere, not perfect, but sincere, I think people want to be around you. By and large, don't you want to be around people that make you happy?
Of course. That's why we had you on the show, right?
Goofball most of the time. I can be, obviously appropriate in my setting, but I'm a very confident person, but I'm a humble person. And I meet presidents and, business leaders. I meet janitors and teachers and police officers. And everybody means something to me.
And I guess the beautiful thing is that you mean something to these folks as well, and I think that, you probably don't want to say it about yourself, but you're just as important, if we, put it that way, as these folks that you interact with, especially from our, so, hey, it's good to have you on our show. I got to make you laugh. So or at least we laughed together. I don't know if I made you laugh or not, but we did. So.
It's fine. I love this. I appreciate what you're doing. I think like with people, I do make people laugh. I'm sure I make them mad too, but I do make people laugh. Even sitting with Chief Brown,
right?
Who I have such admiration for. And we're sitting there and we're talking about these chords, and I go, Chief, let me ask you a question. And I'm sure everybody in the room is wrapped in crayons. I'm like, hey, don't you get tired of white people telling black people what they need? Everybody just like, there's this hush. And he just looks at me, he goes, you're my girl. You're my girl. You don't have a filter. I'm like, well, I'm not sure about the whole filter thing, but don't you get tired of like I'm going to tell you where you need dream courts in South Dallas?
Right.
Why should I tell you? Why don't you tell me what you need?
Okay.
We're trying to help each other, but sometimes we have a propensity to think that we know everything.
You know what we call that?
People. I don't know everything, but tell me, and maybe we can help each other. But I guess sometimes I don't have a filter. I'm very honest. With me, there's a lot of humor, a lot of sarcasm, but a lot of truth. I'm a minimalist.
Right.
But I have a lot of respect for people. But if you're lazy and you're trying to, as I always say, you can't BS a BSer. Don't play me, because you can't.
Right.
I have enough street in me to know when somebody's, trying to play me, but I'll be more than willing to help. And I think it's a great way to deal with people. You kind of know where you stand. You don't have to be like, oh my gosh, I hope they like me. You don't have to like me, but I'm probably still going to try to help you.
Right.
And if you get to know me, maybe we can be friends.
That's a good way to look at it, for sure. So 2 quick things. This is kind of a completely non sequitur, but last week our guest was retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel and former judge advocate James Wyrick. During our conversation, we talked about police shootings for a second. He mentioned kind of in passing that maybe we should have more female cops. And now this was before the Tulsa shooting happened, obviously, which kind of changed.
Yeah, that blows the cover off.
Right. Yeah. I wrote this question out before that happened, but I was just curious though to get your opinion on women in roles of authority. And if you think that would matter or play a difference. I know coaching is not policing, but ultimately the interaction with young, urban, black, African-American, whatever, men is similar in some regard, especially, in this time where I feel like women are probably always under fire, but with the election and Hillary and everything that's happening now, I'm just curious, as if we talk about policing specifically, or just what you think about that comment that if we had more female cops, you have an opinion on that by any chance?
I don't know if I have an opinion on that. I mean, obviously, don't have women just to have women. Don't have a woman president just to have a woman president. Don't have a black president just to say we have a black president. They have to be qualified. They have to be, obviously, Barack Obama it was qualified to be president of the United States. I remember when he invited me to the White House, and it was his first term, and he had been in there a short time. I had just gotten a job with the Legends, and he looked at me and he goes, "Change is hard, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yep, it is." And he goes, "It's our job to make things normal." He goes, "I know I'm black. You're a woman, but it's our job to make it normal, for people." And that's as basic as you can get. So if there's a female cop who does her job, absolutely. I don't know what the context was, for that gentleman, but here's what I tell TJ, my son. You get pulled over, it's going to happen. I get pulled over, and just obey. Again, it's easy for me to say this, but I'm just going to obey them whether I disagree or not. I'm going to have my hands in front of me. By the time the officer gets to my car, I have my license and registration. There are times like, no, I wasn't speeding. I probably was.
Right.
That's the gist of when I get pulled over. I'm probably have a lead foot. And, ma'am, you were doing, no, I don't think I was. Can I see your radar? Or, I might ask that. But if they say stay in the car, I stay in the car. I'm not running or doing anything like that. I'm just obeying. So I think if there was some trust, I think by and large, when you become a police officer, it's to serve your community. It's to protect and serve. Do I think this is a really kind of fragile time? Yeah, it is. People are making split-second decisions on human life, and it's terrible. But you know what? I read this, or somebody told me this story. It might have been down at police headquarters, that apparently they had a guy who was, let me be technical, who was a real perp.
Right.
I watch Law and Order, by the way.
Right, I got you.
Who was a perp, and, however the police responded, they were like, well, that's not fair, this, that, and the other. So they took the guy who was he was African American, and they put him in a room, and they gave him one of those laser guns. This is really cool. This was a criminal or somebody who did something wrong. And they laid out 4 or 5 different scenarios, and the guy had to determine if he was going to shoot or not.
Right.
Like stopping a car, going into domestic violence, whatever the 4 or 5. And the guy shot the person. He was a police officer. They were role playing.
Right,
the guy was a police officer, and he had to assess the situation in real time, split second decision making. And every time he made the wrong decision and he shot somebody. Isn't that weird?
It's weird, but you're the second person to tell me that, because we had on the president of the Dallas Black Police Association, Thomas Glover, and he told the exact same story. I wonder, you guys might have been in the same place at the same time, because after the tragic events a couple months ago, we had him on. And anyway, it sounds like you guys are telling the same story. So I'm surprised, but I did hear the story from Thomas Glover's about that. So yeah.
So my point is, I don't want to see anybody shot or killed or hurt at all anywhere.
Right.
But we got to get this right. Over 500 murders in Chicago that are not police related. I know that we're highlighting, we do it, we highlight what we want to highlight to make our point. I mean, we all do it. But we have got to just, the murders that are happening out there are alarming. The police, I'm sure, are working their tails off at, for the 20,000 things they do right, the 10 or 11 or 15 are highlighted in the media. They never get the love of the things that they do right, because they are doing a lot of things right. You know what I'm saying? We have to have some balance, but I just hate the loss of life. I hate the division. I don't think police officers are trying to, I think that's what concerns me. How do we get better? I would love to do a town hall or go into South Dallas. This is just for me, my own personal selfish reasons. I'd love to sit down with our, African American leaders, quite frankly, with white leaders too, and say, what can we do? Okay, we know this stuff is happening. Tell me what you need us to do. What can you do in your community? White people, what can you do in your community? And then how can we do this together? Systematically, day by day, how can we be better tomorrow than we were today? Tell me what your needs, your concerns, and it's easy for people that have to maybe say, well, that's not my problem. Well, it is your problem. And why aren't we highlighting all the amazing African Americans that are CEOs, that are multimillionaires? There's plentiful. There's a ton of great men and women who are Black that are highly, highly successful in work, being lawyers and doctors and heart surgeons and astronauts and presidents. Why don't we highlight that so some of our kids can go, I want to be like that.
Right.
I just, instead of, highlighting what we know, some of the oppression and the injustices, but what can we do for you? But look at these people who have gone on to be amazing. You can be amazing too, because I could have been a casualty of my environment. I could have joined a gang. I could have killed people. I could have carjacked people. But, I had sneakers that had cardboard in my shoes. I never put my feet up on a table because I was embarrassed. My backpack was a brown paper garbage bag. My pencil holder was a brown paper sandwich bag. I was embarrassed because people had nice things. But, I'm not going to steal their stuff. I'm not going to graffiti their house. I'm not going to, do certain things. I'm more on the Martin Luther King bandwagon of we got to work this out. We have to be firm but fair. We've got to be strong. We've got to be unified. But look at all the people that marched with Dr. King. There were a lot of white people in there, too.
Right. Of course.
So we're not blind to what's going on here. African Americans got a lot of people in their corner. But they also, have to, fight for what they want. When I say fight, not fist fight,
Right.
Education's important. Making sure you're out there, you're working hard trying to get a job or interning or, you got to do your part of it, and then other people have to do their part. And we can't be victims. We have to be victors. That's my rant for today.
I love it. So, hey, I appreciate it. So, all right. So after that rant, I'll let you go, but I did want to ask you too.
All right.
Should we all be drinking almond milk? And what about yoga? Like, what?
I don't know about I don't drink milk. If I had drank milk, I'd be big and strong, which I already am.
Right. Okay.
No, I haven't had milk since I was 7 years old. I've never had cottage cheese. I've never had yogurt. I haven't had milk. I haven't had cheese, all these different types of cheeses. I can't do that.
Okay, I got you.
I eat Twizzlers every single day of my life. If I was the hostess, I would ask for Twizzlers.
Okay.
I would. I eat them every single day. It's the breakfast of champions.
Duly noted. There's hope for me and everybody listening that if I start eating Twizzlers now, maybe I can. Right. Okay. All right. Well, cool. All right. That's good to know because I'm not 39 yet, so maybe I can do something. So, all right.
I don't want to because you're not even 40 yet. I don't like anybody who's young like that. No, I'm only kidding. I love young people. I think we have to connect my generation to your generation, and then you got to connect your generation to those 20-year-olds, and it's really important. And we have to be strong in our faith. We're one generation of losing, these young kids, to believing in God and doing the right thing. We have to be great role models to our kids. I'm generation now. You guys are generation next. You're going to rule the world. So, we want to get this thing right.
I guess that's a good note to wrap on. You clearly have a legacy of trying to get it right. Really appreciate you coming on, Lady Magic, Nancy Lieberman. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Really grateful that you came on the show. So I really appreciate your time this morning. Hopefully we can talk again and maybe the Vocal Minority Report can do something to help promo or anything you got, talk about with anything you're doing out there in the future. So it's really honored to have you on.
Thank you. But what you can do, and we'll talk about it later, is if your listeners, your friends, this would be important to me for the Black community here in Dallas. February 20th is our annual Dream Ball.
Okay.
And it's our big gala. It's going to be in downtown Dallas. And we're honoring Lonnie Ali.
Okay.
And Chief David Brown. And we want to be fully represented in the African American community. We will have a lot of our leaders there.
Okay.
And this is about unity. It's community and unity. And we want the Black community there. We want to stand shoulder to shoulder with people. So they can go to my, NancyLiebermanCharities.org. But it's February 20th. Just put it on your schedule. And then as we get closer, we'll give you more details. But that would be important.
Okay. Well, cool. We'll definitely keep that on the calendar and make sure we talk about it in advance of that. So if I could ask you for one other thing, if you could say your name, identify yourself and say that you're a part of the vocal minority, so we can keep that, you've done liners, you know how it goes. So we can keep that. So, and then I'll let you go get back to conquering the world.
All right. I'm Nancy Lieberman, Basketball Hall of Famer, assistant coach of the Sacramento Kings, and I'm part of the silent minority?
The vocal minority. Yeah.
Vocal minority. Okay. Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm Nancy Lieberman, assistant coach of the Sacramento Kings and Hall of Famer, and I'm part of the silent minority?
Vocal minority.
Vocal. All right, let me do it again. Vocal minority. Okay. Hi, I'm Nancy Lieberman, Hall of Famer and assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings, and I'm part of the vocal minority.
There we go. Love it. Thank you very much, Nancy.
All right. Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with Nancy Lieberman. Really wonderful to have her on the show. Great insight and perspective you see from when she came and the thoughts that have made her who she is, and her unique insight on trying to push and bridge the both racial and generational gap that we have in our country. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you check out NancyLiebermanCharities.org for information on the upcoming Dream Ball and how you can help and support her mission to help enrich the lives of young people in our communities. As always, make sure you check out our new website, thevocalminorityReport.com. We've got several tabs on there. The one I want to draw your attention to is Contribute. What we have there is a quick anonymous survey, just some information about who you are as listeners so we can help grow the show and be able to show our sponsors and folks that we want to grow the show, be able to show them who listens to the show. Follow us on Twitter @VocalReport. You can email the show, vocalreport@gmail.com. On the front page of the website, thevocalminorityReport.com. You can also leave comments. You can leave your contact information, and feel free to leave comments on episodes on the website. Go to audibletrial.com/vocalreport for your free audiobook and 30-day trial. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/vocalreport for your free audiobook and 30-day trial. As always, we really appreciate you guys. We're growing exponentially. So thanks for everyone who's talking about us, who's sharing. Please go to iTunes, leave a rating, a review. We'll talk to you next episode. Peace. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to say thank you. Got to say thank you to my girl, Lizzie. She knows how important she is to the show and all the work she's done, especially on this episode. And I did ask the almond milk and yoga question just for you. So, all right, here we go. Take 2. Peace. We'll holler at you next episode.
This has been a Vocal Neighbors production.